3, 2, 1, bang.
Is he going?
Here I go.
Are we live?
As Joel Turner says, here I go.
Here I go.
Yeah, well, here we are.
Yeah, yet again.
Bear with us, guys. We got some technical issues once again. Greg's currently sitting in the back of his truck right now with his computer on top of his mattress and cords going everywhere, and we're just out here in a parking lot grabbing some Wi-Fi. So
seems like it's working though.
So far so good, but if it cuts out, we'll just bear with us. We'll try to figure out a solution, or we'll be back next Thursday.
It's our first live on the podcast channel.
Yeah, this is the first live feed on the THP podcast channel. We're going to try to do more of these moving forward, and we've got lots more video podcasts coming down the pipe here. Quick update on Zach before we get started. He just had surgery on his knee, and he's in a lot of pain, it looks like, but he's managing it. He's already doing some PT.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the right thing?
Physical therapy?
Yeah, there you go.
That's right.
Got just a huge bruise down the back of his leg, though.
Yeah, he's on some painkillers.
He's in some rough shape, looks like some pain right now, but he'll be back up and after it here soon, I'm sure.
I just watched that video of him when his legs fell asleep when he shot that one in Minnesota a couple years ago, the turkey.
Yeah.
That's how I see him hunting by the end of turkey season.
Yeah,
just
like falling down as he's trying to get to the gobbler.
So that's an update on him. We're missing him on the tour, but hopefully he'll get mended up and be back here with us as soon as possible. If you guys are just jumping on here and joining us, if you got questions, feel free to post them in the comments section, and Greg's going to do a rapid fire Q&A here at the end of the podcast. We may go for 45 minutes to an hour or a little bit longer, so stay on until the end. That's when we'll answer all the questions. But we're going to give you guys kind of a recap of the season so far and what we've been doing for the last week.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've been hunting every day.
I think we started on the 8th, which was, I don't know, what day was that?
Last Wednesday?
Last Wednesday.
Yeah,
So,
last Wednesday.
A little over a week now.
Yep.
Yeah, taking youth hunters, starting out. Killed a couple birds during youth season, had several close calls with the kids too.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of turkeys at 45 yards.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, with Josh's kids, and I don't know about Keith, I don't know if he'll let Colin shoot further than that. But
he wants him 40 and in is what he said to me.
both parents were like 40 yards and in, and they seem pretty
Yeah,
strict
and the
about
guns
that.
that they're shooting would shoot further than that for sure, but that's what they want, and that makes sense. I mean,
yeah. Oh, we had one the other day with Reed on a heck of a hunt. You guys probably already seen it on the channel. Bird comes in with a bunch of jakes hammering, and he's at like, I don't know, 45, 50-ish yards. And Reed was disappointed. I didn't even have to tell him not to shoot. He knew.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, he looks a little far. I'm like, I think he is a little far.
Mm-hmm.
But he almost killed him if he just would have stepped out behind that tree. Some folks in the comments on the video were like, come on, that gun can do that or whatever. But they don't like to shoot them in strut, and they don't like to shoot them past 40 yards. And that bird was strutting past 40 yards. So let him walk off. But overall, we've been in turkeys every day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, pretty much every day we've been in turkeys. Might not be gobbling a ton every day necessarily, but the last couple of days have been pretty hot.
Yeah.
And the weather's been pretty good for the most part too. It's like there hasn't been too many days where it's like, I don't know if they're going to talk this morning.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
Only one rain out.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, another one coming tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, for sure rain out tomorrow.
That's what it looks like. We had one day where we got like 2 inches of rain.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But that really helped us with our scouting after the
Yep.
fact. Before that, though, it was unseasonably warm down here and had been for a long time. So the spring is early. Green up is way ahead.
Yeah, maybe like too warm, I think, really. I mean, the gobbling activity's been better where I've been hunting at least the last 2 days when it's been cold. I think I posted something on Instagram and I said, perfect weather or something like that. And everybody said it was too cold. And maybe it is where they're at. But I like the more crisp mornings and like that humid stuff when we first got here for sure.
Yeah, it was real warm when we first got here. I mean, getting up in like the mid 80s every day.
Yeah, it was
and then only
80s.
Lows in the 60s.
80s, and then that big washout, and then it's been nice weather after that ever since. And then tomorrow it's going to be another rain out. Then after that, it's supposed to be real nice weather again.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Reed had the hot hands out the other day.
Yeah.
I was over there on that camera, and I mean, it was like, I don't know how cold it was, Greg, but it was probably in the low 30s. And I had my hands, we had a gobbler come in with a bunch of jakes and a hen, and he just stood out there strutting at like 50 yards forever. So I had my hands up on the camera the whole time and with those fingerless gloves. And man, my fingers started getting cold. And they finally moved off, and my hands were just shaking like this. And Reed turns over there, he does a double take at me. He's like, here, I got 2 of them. And he had 2 of those great big hot hands that are like this big. I'm like, oh man, you came prepared.
Yeah,
It's
he
like,
held out on you until he saw you in pain.
He did.
Uh-huh.
These Southern folk, they don't mess around with that cold weather.
Nope.
It gets down below 40 down here, and it's time to whip the hot hands out. He was smart about it too. But that morning was, to your point, Jake, we had those 2 mornings where it was like high 30s, low 40s, and down into the low 30s for lows. And they gobbled good both mornings.
Yeah.
Even the ones that had hens that were still gobbling some. Now that's not a general rule, but overall the hunting has been pretty good. Turkeys have had hens, and we've had to deal with flocked up birds like we normally do on these early season trips. But
we've also had some suicide birds come in.
We have.
We've had luck finding them in the middle of the day.
Yeah, mid-morning and mid-afternoon.
Yep.
We definitely have. I think Chris is the only one that's killed one right off the roost that I can think of. I guess Luke killed that one the other
that
day.
one was early. It was like 7:30 when he shot that one.
Yeah.
We almost shot one in the dark. The season was open, but it was dark.
Yeah.
And then a coyote come through and spooked him off. I threw some stuff on the Instagram story, but we eventually caught back up to him. Coyote come through and putted, and really they had kind of skirted around us at that point. And then all of a sudden they're putting and running. We weren't sure if somebody else had spooked them. And then all of a sudden the coyote comes through, and Keith's like, well, that might have been the best thing that could have happened, because they had already made it past us and they're going towards other birds. We could hear a bunch of jakes yelping and gobbling and hens that they're in the direction that they were trying to go. So he kind of pushed them and split them up and then looped around and
that was this morning.
Called them right up. And they gobbled from 6:20, I think it was, until we killed them at 8:30. Like
we didn't even hear a turkey this morning until about 6:45. I think was the first one we heard.
And I've hunted that property with Keith now, I think 3 times maybe this year. And yesterday morning there was one bird lighting up in there, but we heard 5 total gobblers this morning. I think 2 of them were jakes, but there was probably turkeys that had been around, I would assume, with an earshot. And then all of a sudden this morning they all just opened up.
You guys were tight to the roost this morning, right?
Yeah, just because they started gobbling so early, we were able to
I like that bird we killed in Alabama a couple years ago.
That was worrisome.
That was,
on public especially. It's like a turkey starts gobbling that early, you don't know who's all hearing that
was
thing.
Bizarre. I haven't seen that but just a handful of times.
And Keith was shocked too. It's like, I think he was talking to Greg about it, and he's told me several times hunting there, he's like, I don't expect to even hear a bird on the roost, really.
Yeah.
And then the last 2 mornings at 6:20 and 6:23, they're just tearing it up.
Yeah. Bear with us, guys. We got road back here behind us, some cars and whatnot going by. Was that Charlie?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He must be headed to the drive-in.
There you go. Yeah.
Going to some catting around.
That's right. Yeah, man. When we got in early on that one in Alabama, we got out of the car at like, I don't know. I want to say it was 2 hours before first light, like early, because we figured there's going to be other people in this spot.
And that bird had been there, right? Like that
Well, I don't know if it was him or a different one, but there had been a turkey gobbling from that roost every day.
Try to get down in there because he was kind of shutting up like early, if I remember right.
Yeah, there was like 3 days in a row where he gobbled a handful of times, pitched down, didn't say nothing. So it's like, all right, we're going to be in his grill this morning. And as soon as we got out of the car, like 600 yards from him, it's like dark.
Yeah.
And we were just like, what? And I mean, we couldn't see our hands in front of our face. I mean, not even a glint in the east, And we started heading down in there. I'm like, I wonder if that was just a one-off. He woke up, something flew by him and got him a little jittery, and he turned one loose. But then he just kept, pow, and like every 2 or 3 minutes, pow. Me and Jake just got right up underneath him, pretty much.
Too bad they don't do that every time.
Yeah. I mean,
probably wouldn't be nearly as many around if they did, though.
That one the other morning that me and Greg and Thrash and Reed were on, we called him in the day before. That was the one I was talking about a while ago that Reed had at like 45 yards. And we went back and hunted the same turkey, same group of jakes the next morning. And we knew it was the same turkey because we eventually saw him, and he's got short tail feathers in the middle of his fan. Both mornings had him at 50. But the second morning we went in there, he only gobbled like 6 or 7 times, and he had a hen with him. But you know how a lot of times when they get like 1 hen with them or 2 hens, not a whole group, they'll just occasionally gobble like at a crow, or they'll answer you if you get to cutting real loud or something, but they're not just up there, pow, pow, you know, burning it up. They're gobbling, but they're
also thinking they could use a couple more hens, where one with 6 or 7 hens is like, I got probably more than I know what to do with at this point.
Oh yeah, me and David Williams killed one in Tennessee several years ago that had 12 hens. We roosted him the night before, watched him fly up in the tree, and got right underneath him the next morning. It was bluebird perfect, and there was turkeys gobbling up and down the creek. He never gobbled 1 time. He pitched out of that tree and was strutting around them hens, and we eventually killed him. Never gobbled once. And it was like easy to see once you watched him in that field with those hens. Like, he just never came out of full strut, and he was just looking at this hen, looking at this hen, looking at this hen. That's how he was for an hour and a half before he killed him. It's like, no wonder he
was he
gobble.
Roosted where he could see all those hens even?
Yes. Yeah.
So
roosted right in the same trees.
He knew he didn't have to gobble almost. He wasn't trying to round anything up.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Kind of, and that's not a general rule, but a lot of times when they only have 1 or 2 hens, they'll still gobble, and you can still keep tabs on them. How many hens did that bird have with you and Keith yesterday that you guys almost killed?
2, I think. 2.
Was he gobbling?
Yeah, but she was also losing her mind for probably 30, 45 minutes, and like then even after she went crazy for a little bit there, if Keith would get on the call, she'd generally answer him, and he would gobble still. Same like you're talking about though, 2 hens, and he was like, I'll take another one, basically, come on over.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, we just heard that one bird yesterday, and there was at least 3 of them in that wheelhouse this morning. I think we had 2 birds coming together, and that bird was just roosted a little bit further to the south. I would assume it was a lone turkey roosted just to the south of where he was at, maybe like 100, 200 yards further away from where he was yesterday. But he didn't start gobbling until we were already moving in on those 2 birds.
Yeah.
And they weren't directly with hens. They were like I said, there was jakes, and it sounded like several hens that were a couple 100 yards to our north that they were trying to get to. But then that coyote come through and saved the day for us. It's a cool hunt. I was showing these guys, the kid, he's 10 years old, and he had never been turkey hunting before, and you could just tell that he's in it for the rest of his life. Like he couldn't have been happy. Like awesome. he was fired up before we even heard a turkey gobble. He was just so excited to be out there turkey hunting. He's killed a couple deer with his gun, but that was his first time turkey hunting, and he had pretty much the ideal morning. Had a close call right off the bat, and then had a coyote come through, and then eventually killed a turkey. Keith kept telling him, he's like, it ain't always like that. You get maybe a couple mornings like this in spring if you're lucky.
What did he say when he was standing there trying to hold him up? I want to do this every day of my life.
Yeah, he said a lot of really cute things. He said that he cried on the way. He was crying on the way in just because he was so happy
to be going.
Yeah,
that's cool. That's awesome.
That is cool.
Oh man, Reed's heart was pounding the other day, and he just killed one tonight.
Yeah,
and he's been like 3 or 4 times already, and he hadn't got one, and he's been close, like had the safety off on multiple birds.
At least 3 different times had turkeys within 45 yards.
Yeah, finally killed one tonight, never gobbled. Just slid in there amongst them and called him. I mean, just came through, and then Josh called him in.
They haven't hunted a ton of evenings either. It doesn't seem like they've hunted maybe 1 or 2.
I think it's the second one.
The first morning that the first afternoon that you guys left, I went out with them, and we had that turkey at 45 yards. It might have been the same turkey that you had gotten close to a couple times. We went in there on the ridge that he was roosted on, where you got close to him, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And he came into like 45 yards, but he never gobbled. He just, all of a sudden, it was just a calm night. We could hear walking on the other side of the ridge, and he got his gun pointed down that way, and the turkey just came up and craned up, looked, didn't see another turkey, and so he started pecking back the other way. He clucked one time or putted one time just to try to get another turkey to raise its head or see another turkey. And never folded his wings or anything, and he just pecked his and never strutted, gobbled, nothing. Yeah. Then you could tell that he was with other birds that were over the ridge. We could hear him scratching in the leaves over there, but he never said nothing.
Yeah, I didn't really know what you guys have been into the last couple of days, because the 3 of us have been gone. We've been on the road, and we killed a couple. That'll be on the.
There'll be some exciting times coming to the
right after this podcast. We're going to post Nick's hunt from yesterday.
Oh yeah.
all three of them are very good. I'd say we're all pretty.
They're all exciting.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
We were dying laughing at every single, like we got to see their footage for the first time, and then I was showing those guys this morning something for the first time, and it's all pretty good stuff. It seems like so.
We did not expect to kill this many turkeys in the first couple of days of season down here. Like, I mean, some years it takes us 5, 6, 8 days to really get a chance at one, you know.
Yeah, drop in the comments below if you're hearing more turkeys than usual or less or the same amount, because we've been talking about it for since last spring, really the last 2 springs. Like we've been seeing a lot of jakes. Like most places we go, it seems like
last year
groups of 10, 15 jakes at once, and so we kept talking about how it seems like it might be a pretty good spring this year in a lot of places that we've been. It's going to be, in pockets. But
yeah, as far as the eastern range goes, though, a lot of states that have had really bad or poor hatches for a long time have had good hatches the last 2 years. So, and I think we're seeing it down here right now. Like there's definitely, I mean, I wouldn't say there's an overabundance of turkeys by no means, but there's turkeys in most spots where there should be turkeys.
More than we generally run into.
Right.
Or have in the last couple of years, I'd say for sure.
For sure.
Which is real encouraging because 2020 and 2021, turkeys got hammered. I mean, everybody and their dog was hunting during COVID because they had time.
Yep.
And then when the country...
And traveling to hunt too.
Yeah, traveling to hunt. When the country opened back up in 21, like national parks set records for attendance, and states sold more licenses than they had in a long time, and a lot of those license sales have tapered back since then. But like we mashed turkeys as the general public that hunts, we
were talking about it earlier, and you said there's probably more people that turkey hunted in those 2 years that have in the last 20 years.
Yeah,
I would guess.
Yeah,
or maybe that's fact. I don't know.
It's close. It's really close, and that's come back down.
But then at the same time,
people have went back to work and
like
stuff.
We're talking about all that pressure, and then as that's happening 2 years later, there's still a bunch of jakes running around. So that's encouraging to see, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're seeing lots of turkeys, and the two hunts that we've had the last couple of days are dang near perfect. I mean, just
you don't get many of them this early in the year, especially.
No. I mean, that one this morning was running into the call from 400 yards. It's insane. Like there wasn't much footage to be had because he came from 100 yards to 15 in 5 seconds. Just like he was running into a strutting decoy.
Yeah,
except
it was like
it's crazy
coming in full bore.
He just lost his mind. The only thing would have made yesterday better if you would have been out there with us.
I know. I was in the truck editing, and I was in the middle. I've been concentrating for a while. I had clothes hung up around the windows to keep the light out so I could work in there and see my screen. And I glanced up every once in a while, and like there's this long road back in there where they were at, and you could see a quarter mile down that road. And I glanced up, and I didn't see nothing. I went back to editing. And the next time I glanced up, like 10 minutes later, I was like, they're 30 yards away walking out with a turkey.
You see this big shoulder guy coming walking down the road?
You see these wide shoulders? I mean, you couldn't miss me because I'm surprised I even saw the turkey. My shoulders go out about as wide as his wings were.
Yeah, that hunt's coming up after this podcast. Oh, man. That was good, boy.
Yeah.
I love that. What else should we talk about? We got other topics we're going to cover. That's kind of I guess that's a recap of what we've been doing. So far, we're pretty encouraged.
Turkey tour
production.
Yeah, you just talking about sitting in the car editing. That's kind of what some of it looks like. Basically it works out best when we can edit the footage that we film, but when we're doing this, you kind of got to divide it up just to get it out fast enough where you're just dividing videos into different sections, and like you're working on this, the first whatever section of the video, and
that's what we did today.
Yeah,
three of us worked on it, and then Greg did the thumbnail. So like whenever you guys are watching these videos that are coming out same day, there's 3 or 4 people that are working on that at least. I mean, and that's to get them out. A lot of these videos that we've been putting out, we've been getting back around 11, 12 o'clock, getting something to eat, downloading footage, and then editing from 1 to 7 or 8 at night. And in 6, 7 hours, 3 or 4 of us can get one of these up. I mean, it depends on the length. Like some of these early season videos that we've been posting for y'all have been longer, like 25 minutes. Those take a long time.
Yeah.
And you got to have all hands on deck to put one of those together fast. But some of these shorter ones are 12 to 15 minutes we can do in 4 hours.
It's just nice because if we don't do them this fast, I think we were talking about it, it's like all of a sudden if you're lucky, maybe you get 2 kills piled up, and then you might have a close encounter that we don't end up posting. But if we're doing them day of, you guys are getting to see, not just kills, which is, I mean, that's not what it's like. I don't know what percent of the time.
I mean, the next 3 they're going to be able to see that.
Yeah.
Sorry, spoiler alert.
But like that's not how it typically goes when you go out turkey hunting, as most people know. So it's fun to see this. We were just talking about when we were watching you guys on Spring Thunder. It's like it's cool. It was cool that the video, like I could go to work in the next morning. First thing I do is sign in the computer. I'm watching a hunt from the day before.
Yeah.
Like I can't be out hunting, but I can be signing the computer at least with someone that's hunting. And it's just like the conditions from the day before. It's just real time stuff.
I didn't get any sleep back in them days. We get sleep now a little bit. That's what some people have asked is like, when do y'all sleep? And like a few years ago when we started this, we really didn't very much. I mean, we got very little, but now that we have a group here with us, we're all pretty unselfish. It's not like we're all trying to go out and wax a turkey, each of us every day. Like our first goal when we left a few days ago was just to get Nick a bird and just focus on that. So like me and Ted are just helping him and filming and stuff. And then once he gets one, then me and Nick are helping Ted. And that's how we've always done stuff. I mean, we've been taking kids and whatnot for the last week, but there's usually 1 or 2 of us filming and then 2 or 3 of us editing the footage as it comes in. So, I mean, we really we spend as much time editing or producing footage for YouTube as we do hunting. Yep. We might spend even more
especially
time.
when we're doing it this way.
This week we've spent more time producing than we have been in the woods.
I'd say with how quick the hunts have gone.
The first 5-6 days we were hunting with kids, I mean, we weren't hunting past 10 o'clock most days.
No.
They're having to go to school and parents got to go to work, and then that would allow us to edit all day. But I mean, these last 2 days we just
which really honestly makes it more realistic to probably most people's situation too, because not everybody can hunt all day every day.
No.
It's like if you got a flexible job, you're able to go out maybe a couple hours in the morning, and then if you're lucky, maybe a couple hours in the afternoon.
I mean, that's how I just think of it. Like, how do you talk to your buddies about turkey hunting when you're going through turkey season? You're texting them every morning at 10 a.m. when you get to work or late or whatever, and you're like, what'd you hear this morning? Did you hear any? Did you get close? Oh man, I had up one at 50 yards or whatever, and he just never put his head up, or and then that night you're like, did you go roost, or where you going in the morning? It's like, that's why we like posting these things as often as we can, because real time almost.
And it's funny too, because it's just like hunting in the rut. Basically, it's like somebody could just have a stellar morning. It's like, they're tearing it up till 9 o'clock, and then it's like, we literally didn't hear anything.
Oh, Jim didn't hear a gobble this morning.
Yeah.
He's like, what the heck? You guys got another one? Like, well, we found one, and he was ready, boy.
Well, blind hog finds an acorn every now and then. And sometimes it's 2 acorns.
That's right. Do I need to cover anything else about turkey tour production? I mean, we could go on for days about all of the equipment and the gear that we use to keep batteries charged and all that.
Is there a video where that's in the description or anything like that, Greg? People can just check out.
An old one. I'll update it this summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
We won't nerd out on you completely on that stuff. And honestly, Greg should be the one in here if we are going to talk about it. So.
That's true.
I do know that the way we're doing the production right now, it helps me as I'm trying to progress editing. It helps me help y'all, but then because I get to chunk things up, and like today you said, take this little chunk of footage and work on this, and then it's like every day there's a little bit something extra that I'm learning to throw into the mix. So whether it's a Gaussian blur or whatever it's called, or the text thing you showed me today, and so it's just every day
different effects and ways to be more efficient.
And instead of having to sit down and for 3 days straight hammer out a 30-minute long video, I'm able to chunk it up, and it makes it easier to process. So
teamwork makes the dream work.
Except for your dream last night where you were getting
God, it's so good. I took a page out of Ted's nightmare book last night. So I'm in the tent and I'm in my bag. These little 1-man tents that we sleep in, not very big. And I was in my sleeping bag. It's pretty cold. So I had my sleeping bag zipped up around my shoulders, I had my arms like this. I was sleeping. And I had a dream that I was in a school, except it wasn't a school. It was full of adults that were working, and they were like going in and out of the classrooms to their jobs. And this one big guy come up to me, and he started like pushing me and trying to take my wallet. And he took my wallet. And I was like, "Give that back!" So I reached over and I grabbed it. And then I started feeling bad for him, and he just kind of stood there, you know, mad. I'm like, "What, do you need some money or something? I'll give you some money if you need some money." And he just kind of grunted at me. And then I opened my wallet up, and I had a couple hundreds and a 20. And I reached to grab him at 20, and about the time I did, he grabbed down there and he grabbed my wallet again and grabbed my money, and I started like trying to fight him, but I was in a sleeping bag. So we were like fighting each other in a phone booth. It was weird. I woke up and I was just like in that sleeping bag, almost punching myself in the face.
Night
Wow.
mouse got on him. He couldn't get away from it.
Now you know how I feel when I have those
Yeah.
once a week.
We were in Wyoming. Ted sat straight up in his cot. He's like, just eyes closed. He's like, "Get away from me. Don't talk to me." Like,
Oh yeah, whenever I get real sleep deprived, I get some bad ones. I get up, walk around, freak some people out usually, but I don't remember them, but I always hear about them the next morning.
I remember this one because I woke up immediately, you know, in that bag. Like, oh, well, that's why I'm fighting him in a phone booth, because I'm stuck in this sleeping bag in this little tent. Anyway, that's your crazy story for the night, I guess.
We had
What else you got? What's the next topic we got to cover?
introducing youth.
All right, we kind of talked about that a little bit, but it's been, hopefully you guys have gotten a lot out of these videos. The reason of the youth hunting, that is, like we chose the families and the groups of guys to film for these youth hunts for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because we really believe in the way that they're introducing these kids to the outdoors and to turkey hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Like Keith Polk has introduced many people over
yeah.
the years. I mean, have you seen that picture of him in Lake?
Yeah. I've been riding around with him for 3 days, and it's just like every morning there's 3 or 4 different stories about, you know, the first, you know, or him taking a kid on their first hunt, or, you know, getting their first, like we're going to all these different places he can hunt. We really just need to sit down and do a podcast with Keith and Josh and talk about this again, which I think Zach's about to post the one we did with Thrash last year, where we talk about introduce, like a large portion of it is about getting his kids into it. But you guys can see in the videos, I mean, these kids are fired up about it. Like, it's
they're
cool
not,
to see.
We're hunting private ground, but they don't make it too easy on them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, you know, oh, we can wake up late in the morning and I've got everything set up and we can just put you on a bird and whack him just like that. I mean, we've been going out and struggling and like failing. And Thrash even said that, you know, the first couple times that he took them out there not to kill a turkey. He took them out there to show them how to turkey hunt. And then that has progressed over time. And now Reed, I mean, he's been like 3-4 times, hasn't killed a turkey. And tonight he went out with his dad this evening, and he was like, he didn't think they were going to get into anything, but he still knew, like, if I'm going to get something, I got to go. And he went out there and got a big old gobbler. That was awesome.
Yep.
It's a lot of fun to watch them. I mean, just like Thrash's kids, to see how fired up they get. That's, to me, that's the funnest part of the whole deal. Like that kid watching that clip of him saying, "I want to do this every day of my life." I'm almost 28 and I feel the same way. It's like,
that's how I answered him. I said,
awesome
me too.
See a little kid be like that, and like Thrash's kids, they run. If we're not playing wiffle ball in the yard or something, they're running around hooting, yelping, messing around. You know,
they were fishing part of the day today. They took the 4-wheeler down the lake with their life jackets on, and they fishing poles.
And they're all about it. It's fun.
Yeah, it's cool to see how knowledgeable they are about all of it already. I mean, Luke's 8, I think, and Reed's 10 or something like that.
Oh, Luke did awesome on that hunt the other day.
They're sharp. They know what's going on.
What do you think it is about Southern folks in general that make, I mean, we've talked about it. It's definitely just a real thing that, like, these kids, it's first of all the manners, but just the confidence that they have to have a conversation with
an adult,
literally anybody.
Anybody.
It's like so many kids that I encounter are so timid that
we were standing at that restaurant the other day getting ice cream. Me and Jake are standing there, and the next thing we know, there's just kids circled all the way around us, and every one of them's got a story to tell you about the turkey hunt or something. I thought that was the coolest thing.
Yeah, like 6-year-old kids just like having just talking at you and like making total sense, you know, telling you a story. it's just I guess it's the upbringing, it's just a different culture down here, but it's definitely a real thing I've noticed over the last couple of years, and it's cool.
It is cool.
Yeah, and we're just watching Thrash. Thrash has 3 kids that are of different ages. Luke's 8, Reed's 10, and Elizabeth is she 14?
14,
I think
15.
she's 14.
I think she's about to get her license.
So Elizabeth and Reed they've been on many turkey hunts at this point. So they know how to handle the gun and everything. He doesn't really have to babysit them. He kind of lets them even take the reins sometimes of the hunt. Like Reed was calling the other morning and getting that turkey to gobble. And I was just letting him do his thing. I was sitting next to him, and as the bird was coming in, he's like, "Should I take the safety off?" And I'm like, "Not yet." And he came in a little bit closer, and I said, "Go ahead and take it off." And I heard it click over there. So he already knows. Luke is a little bit younger, and I think he just killed his first one last year.
I think so.
It might have been last year or year before last.
Yeah.
And like in that hunt, he's sitting right with Josh, and he's in his ear, like telling him,
sitting right between his legs.
Right between his legs. And I think
I even do that with Crystal sometimes.
Yeah.
Or just like my cousin that I took last year, who was quite a bit older, but it was the first time turkey. And it's like, regardless of who I guess if it's a grown man you're taking out, maybe not.
New to it.
But if you're comfortable with it, it's like if they're right there, you can help them with things and like even just turn their head if they have to and stuff like that. Something I noticed Keith was doing really well this morning though is just communication, because I find myself just like I guess I'm filming, so it's like I'm focusing on that, but Keith is just constantly like communicating with the kid, just like because he's watching the turkey too. He's just like, keep your finger off the trigger, because the turkey's getting close, but it's not close enough. So he couldn't see if his finger was on the trigger or not. And eventually Cooper told him, he said it's not on the trigger, but he's just like telling him stuff that like I guess I would maybe overlook. It's like don't shoot at him yet. He's not close enough. Just like really simple stuff that I guess I might overlook if I was taking someone that young for the first time.
Yeah, they're teaching them discipline, especially with that range thing. Like we were saying earlier, they got a limit, and if they don't come past that, they don't let them shoot. And the other day when that bird walked off, Reed was bummed. Like he rocked his head back. He was bummed for a few seconds. Then he turned around and he's like, "You know what? That was pretty dang cool." Like, you're going to be all right, because that's going to happen a bunch more times. He didn't make up any excuses or anything like that. It was just like, it didn't work out this time, so we got to try him again tomorrow. And we went back in after. What else you got?
We got
one more. We got another couple topics, I think.
Preseason prep.
Oh, yeah. Preseason prep.
Try not to lean up against the truck. I think it's causing static on your mic.
Really? Okay. Thank you, Greg. My bad.
I've been seeing some of the comments is just like turkey season doesn't start for another month and a half, and like that is the case for most places in the country. Is turkey season hasn't started, so I think we could take a step back and talk about the preseason prep. I think that's why we decided to do that.
How do you pattern your gun? That's probably the first thing we'll talk about.
Yeah, for me, I have a choke that I really like, and like we talked about chokes and everything that we shoot last week, but I'll use a Kicks choke, so I like that. And then I found several different. I switched to the TSS loads a few years ago, like a lot of y'all did, and I just got several different shot sizes and just tried them out. And it was expensive to do, but worth it. And I just shot from, dedicated a whole box to shooting, 20, 30, 40, 50, and then shot out to 60, and just to see what it looks like and how I need to be, like, is it shoot high or what, and just
how many pellets are in the head at different distances and things,
and just trying to compare it, and then compared it to like some other not older, but just other loads I had that weren't TSS, or there were 5s or 6s, and compared to see how many more pellets I was getting in the black. And like I found that for my gun with my choke tube that I'm shooting, those number 9s, they pattern really, really well, and they hold a really tight pattern out to 60 yards, and so that gives me that confidence there, and that's how I like to pattern my shot.
And honestly too, to maybe save yourself some money, there's probably a video out there of the gun that you're shooting and the loads that you're thinking about shooting. Just like look at what patterns people are getting in some sort of view, if you can find one. That might save you some money. Then obviously you have to shoot it yourself, but instead of mixing and matching with a bunch of different stuff, that might be a good way to go too. And I was just going to say too, if you are shooting a red dot, have to shoot it every spring. every spring you have to shoot it before season. That's the
Mhm.
difference. I mean, if you got a bead and you're shooting the same ammo as you shot the last 10, 15 years, you obviously don't have to pattern your gun. You know what it's going to do. But if you're shooting a red dot, I'd say it's just pretty much mandatory. Every spring you got to shoot it before season starts.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's no different than deer rifle, I
Mhm.
guess, or your muzzleloader or whatever. It's like you got to shoot it, make sure that it's dialed in.
Mm-hmm.
I just shoot a bead, and mine hasn't really changed much.
Barrel's not bent.
Yeah, I don't know. According to Mike, it is. But yeah, I haven't patterned mine in a while, but I shoot it every year usually before I go, just at 20, 30 yards to make sure that it's still right on.
Mm-hmm.
The main point, though, for preseason is that you pattern your shotgun so that you know what your limitations are, what your shotgun's capabilities are. Like Nick's saying, he's patterning it at different ranges. So like yesterday when you killed that turkey, you knew that you could put enough in his head at the distance that he was at if you got a clear shot.
Mm-hmm.
And that gave you the confidence to stop him and then get his head up and shoot him.
Mm-hmm.
So it worked out good. That's why you pattern your shotgun. But also I think about, call practice is a given, I think, for anybody that's getting ready to go turkey hunting. And usually people will start getting their calls out a few weeks to a month or so.
The earlier you do it, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
If you can make yourself get excited to practice.
If you're
in
watching these
December,
videos, I mean,
Yeah.
the one I'm about to post with this hen that's going wild, get your calls out. I mean, maybe not when your wife or kids are around or someone that doesn't want to listen to your turkey call, but if, as you're driving to work or whatever in the car, just get some real hen audio on the phone and start playing along to it.
Yeah, that's a good way to practice, really.
Mm-hmm.
Don't listen to other callers.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to actual hens.
Mm-hmm.
And like
Yeah.
the cadence that they use, and listen to, how many notes they'll use in a plain yelp versus what they sound like when they get excited. What a tree yelp sounds like, what clucking and purring sounds like. Just Google live hen turkeys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's how you really learn.
Mm-hmm.
You hear those hens cutting. A lot of times people will get on a mouth call and they'll kind of just run all that together. They'll just go pop, 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 yop, 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 yop. But if you listen to how a hen cuts, a lot of times it's like 2 or 3 notes, like pop, 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 and then she'll mix a yelp in there with it. It's not just that run together cackle all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot you can learn by just watching real turkeys that will help you. You don't need to be the best caller, but if you get your cadence down, you can kill a lot.
All sorts of different sound hens out there.
Yeah.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah,
Good ones,
Cadence
bad ones.
is more similar than the sound.
Yeah.
For sure.
And if you don't have a season coming in for a while yet, sorry, Greg, I just unplugged my mic in my pocket. Can you still hear me? Still got it?
Yeah.
All right. If you don't have a season coming in for a while yet, we used to, like in Missouri, our season has always started, around that 3rd Monday of the month.
Mm-hmm.
And turkeys start gobbling up there in middle of March, about this time, especially on warm fronts.
Mhm.
So we would go out, we would actually start scouting almost a month before our season came in.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just drive around to different public areas or different private spots that we had to hunt. And I just, at minimum, listen to turkeys gobble before work.
Here comes up front.
We got a front coming in here, boy.
I thought that was rain. I thought that was about to be rain.
Yeah.
And I'd say if you're further north than that yet, maybe there's snow on the ground still, but just go out and start trying to locate winter flocks.
Look for tracks or
Yeah,
something.
they're going to start dispersing. Maybe all the turkeys are a mile away from public or somewhere you can hunt right now, but they'll start dispersing throughout the spring. So just knowing, I guess, how many birds or where birds are and where they might, that might help you know where they might be later in the spring.
Yeah, I really like listening early, especially like if your season, the closer that you get to your season, the more I would be listening in the mornings.
Mm-hmm.
And not only listening and putting ears and pins on birds where they're at, but also if you got the extra 30 minutes to sit there on a real good morning like we had today and just listen to where they're going. Like, because after they pitch down, they might gobble 2 or 3 more times if you're lucky.
You want to be where they're going.
You want to be where they're going.
Mhm.
And you want to, like, if he flies down and he goes south, you want to make a note of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you go in there the next day and he's roosted 400 yards from there, but then he works back to that same area. Oh, howdy. if it works back to that same area, then you can.
That's exactly how it went for us yesterday morning with Nick's hunt, because we went in there the morning before season, heard that bird, and he was like right here in the creek bottom. And that night we didn't hear him on the roost, so we went in there kind of blind, but we kind of angled towards where we heard him. And that opening morning, he was gobbling like over here in the creek bottom, and we just basically beelined it right for where we heard him the morning before, because we figured that's where he was going.
Yeah.
So, and then he eventually, all those turkeys started working our way.
Yeah.
Also try to just, you're talking about going back and listening to the same turkeys, but also just try to locate as many different flocks and turkeys as you possibly can right now. That's, I'd say, being able to bounce to different turkeys, because maybe, you know, 6 other people are hearing the same birds that you are. And you want to have a plan B all the way through Z, really, if you can. Just locate as many different birds as you can.
Yeah, and find spots to hunt now. Don't wait until turkey season to do that. Like, go out and either start talking to landowners about getting permission, or start visiting different.
Yeah, now's the time
areas
to lock that stuff down, because it's like,
Yeah.
how many times have you been to a place where it's just like, so and so already asked me.
Yeah, that's right.
You don't want to be the second one there.
Yeah.
And if you're going to a public area to hunt, or a WMA or something, now's the time when you need to do all your research into like the regulations, what sort of permits you need, all of that stuff. I mean, I constantly procrastinate and wait until a week before we leave to go to some of these places, and wish that I didn't do that, because a lot of these public areas have very different regulations, you know, and from state to state have different regulations. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Always changing too.
always changing.
Ever evolving.
Some states will let you hunt till all day. You know, some states you got a noon closure or 1 closure. So there's lots of that. Those details.
No Sunday hunting.
Right. Out east. Yeah, there's lots of those little details that you can be worrying about now that you don't have to worry about when it comes time to hunt, if you've got that stuff locked down. And if you're going to private land and you're looking for turkeys, the landowners are going to know most of the time if they got turkeys. You know, we're just looking for spots on the map that have got a lot of habitat diversity of some kind, private or public, where there's water, there's permanent water, then there's openings, mature timber that turkeys can roost in, and some sort of patchwork mixture of all those things, and often there's turkeys there. Then we seek those landowners out and ask them, sorry guys, we got a lot of vehicles and traffic coming in and out of here. I know it probably sounds pretty hectic, because it is, but it's all good.
All right, so we'll roll that into the next one. What's in your vest?
What's in your vest?
Yeah, in your turkey
A lot of
vest.
snacks and wet wipes right now for me.
Fiber.
I got a camo drape. I got that Nalgene bottle right next to you. I got binoculars, thermocell canisters, extra thermocell pads. I wish I had some Picardin lotion, but I don't. And a friction call, a couple strikers, and some conditioning stones.
Turkey tote,
ink pen, paper, hair ties,
rubber
put
bands
tags on them.
If you're someone that runs
Electrical
a
tape.
glass call a lot throughout the spring, a conditioning stone is definitely worth the investment.
Yeah.
It really it does exactly what its name is, I guess, but it just does a lot better job than those, you know, sandpaper or Brillo pads. It's like
Stone will last you all year, plus some. Those Brillo pads will last you, you know, a week or two.
Woodhaven.
Do you have an extra stone, by the way?
I do.
Woodhaven sells them on their website, correct?
That's good.
I do have an extra stone.
Excellent.
For when he loses his.
I think I got to give Thrash one, and I can give you one. I got an extra striker. Too.
They're easy to lose, so I put a little. I don't have it tied yet to my new vest, but I drilled a little hole through the end of it and got some fishing line last year and tied it right to my vest, and
There you go.
still got it. It's the first one I've held on to for more than one spring. So
It's called a dummy cord. Dummy cord it to you, and you'll never lose it.
There you go. We got the Longbird tape measure we carry sometimes. I don't know what else we have. Not a lot else. Not a lot of other things.
Not really.
Snacks, water, shells, calls,
Shells.
toilet paper.
I'd say pruners if you're hunting anywhere where you can prune. That might
That's handy.
that'll get you a setup that you wouldn't be able to get otherwise. I'd say in a lot of situations. It's like if you're wanting to sit down by a tree, but you know you can't swing your gun or something. If you can take and cut a couple things that are it's just way quieter too than breaking stuff a lot of time.
I usually take 3 to 5 mouth calls and 1 friction call and a couple of strikers. Sit for calls. What happened?
June bug.
Oh, that ain't even June.
I didn't want him to get in your ear.
What else you got?
Well, we kind of touched on scouting,
Yeah.
so we rolled into that. So the last one on there is where are you going to hunt?
Yeah, we kind of discussed that a little bit with finding public or finding landowners that you can hunt on their ground.
Yeah. And even to add a little bit to the scouting side, think of places where you can hear turkeys. Like this morning, we were at a high point with a big power line that went both directions that was open for like a mile in either direction. And we were at the high point where you could hear a really long distance. Had that power line not been there, it's just nothing but trees. And that's going to cut down on the amount, the distance that you can hear turkeys gobbling from. And I even think about that when it comes to roadways and stuff. Like there's some public areas that we got to walk in way over a mile to get to the turkeys, but there's usually a road on the other side and a private field next to that where you can hear them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can put ears on them across an opening into a block of timber, maybe you access that block of timber a different way, but it's just figuring out how to hear those turkeys and where they're at. Like, sound travels in such odd ways through timber and hills and all of that stuff. Like, be thinking about that. And if you're planning a morning where you're going to go and scout 2 or 3 areas before work, ideally you go to the best spot to hear all those areas immediately. You're not listening down in a bowl or a hole or something like that.
Yeah, and a lot of times if you're just checking out a new area for the first time, you're dropping those pins as you're going through it the first time. It's like you pull up or drive past a spot or pull up to a spot, and a lot of times as we're moving right down the road, it's like, all right, there's a good spot to listen from. You don't even have to stop the vehicle, especially now that OnX is just right there on if you got a newer vehicle, it's on the thing.
It's on your car, your
car screen,
your car screen thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a vehicle with that thing in it. So.
Neither, but must be nice.
Yeah, CarPlay, is that what you got?
Yeah, in this
CarPlay
truck,
thing?
I mean, it's nice to have. I'm not gonna have it anymore in like a week or 10 days.
You're
but
giving this back to Poppy?
Yeah, Poppy will get this truck back, and then I'll be back. I'll be back in the old Casper, the white truck. We'll have a new engine. We'll be ready to rock.
Yeah.
But no CarPlay.
Yeah.
So
And Poppy will have all your pins.
yeah,
Yeah, it will.
Poppy's gonna have all my pins, unfortunately.
You ready to do rapid fire, Greg?
Let's do some rapid fire.
Rapid
Okay.
fire Q&A.
So this is what I need to be paying attention to here.
Yeah. He's going to put it on the screen for you, Nick.
That's a big 10 for
Anybody say anything about my chicken legs?
Oh, wow.
Well, first, we got to address Ted's toes.
My toes?
Woof.
They're not very
Asking
pretty.
Where his boots are at.
Somebody
They're
said
right
you need
here.
a pedicure.
I don't think you want to see a close-up shot of these things.
Get them things up here.
Yeah, give them things another month. They'll look real good.
They're ready to
Oh,
rock.
I bet that felt good.
Okay,
You got them?
here we go. We'll make them quick as possible.
Quick as possible. Rapid fire, Nick.
I'm still looking at Ted's feet on the screen.
You got a delay, Greg. A little bit of a delay. It should
All
pop
right, so
up.
I'll list them off.
Hang on. It'll be there.
Quick tip for hunting in the rain.
Quick tip for hunting.
I
in
would
the
say
rain.
if you got fields in your area, take a
Opening
drive
thing,
around
yeah.
and look
Clear
in the
cuts.
fields
Yeah.
or sneak around and look in the fields wherever there's an opening in your area.
If you know it's coming, try to have a turkey roosted where you can get real close to them.
Mm-hmm. That's how Giannis killed his bird in Georgia. Drove around and spotted those birds on a rain day up and close to public on a field.
Yeah, and like down in the South, doesn't seem like turkeys use fields as often, but when it rains, they will. So if there's turkeys in a general area and there's a field nearby or short grass or a logging road or a clear cut.
So if you
anything,
don't know where a bunch of turkeys are, it might just be a good day to scout too. If you got
yes,
Mhm.
because they'll come out of the woodwork into those fields on those days. They may not have used that field for a week and a half, but then it rains and they get out there to dry off. They do not want to be in the timber. And this is especially true the further on you get into the spring.
and honestly, not just fields, roads.
Yeah.
Like if that's all they have for options, roads, clear cuts, anything you can think of, pretty much all areas have something like that.
Anywhere where they can get out of the woods, because the woods they got all those leaves and stuff on them. They want to get out there and dry off.
And a good slicker suit.
Yeah.
The longer you can stay dry and stay out there, the better chance you're going to have.
Hogs, ground blind, umbrella,
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
All right. 12 gauge versus 20 gauge. What do you prefer?
12 gauge versus 20.
I don't have a preference really. I have a 20 gauge because someone sent me one, and it's really light. I like that.
That's the same thing I
And
got.
I can shoot turkeys way further than I want to with it. So it's, especially with the tungsten, that does it for me. But
I got a 20 gauge too. Same thing as Jake. So that's what I use. Pretty much the same setup. Works pretty good.
I use a 12 gauge. I have one shotgun I use for everything. I duck hunt and goose hunt with it. I turkey hunt with it. So that's just what I use. And I'm confident with it. So I've just stuck with that.
mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
I got 2 Remington 870s, a 12 gauge and a youth model 20.
I did see enough of my buddy. Well, we posted them on the channel using the 410s last year, and I think if you're shooting a 20 gauge or a 12 gauge, probably would have just folded the thing up out there. So if you're a grown man going out there with a 410, unless you got, you know, a reason that you need to use it, maybe step her up. It might. I mean, you don't want to be crippling birds, I'd say, because that was one of those deals where he hit them, you know, where I feel like he would have crumpled them up pretty good with even a 20 gauge, but who knows?
Yeah.
All right. For Nick, what is your biggest challenge going from hunting Texas to hunting the Southeast?
Oh,
Excuse me, the Northern Midwest.
I had turkey.
Let's do Southeast.
Okay. Yeah. Not ever hunting here ever. So totally new, don't know nothing. That's been the biggest challenge for me, and learning, just like I did on the deer tour, learning terrain the way that y'all look at it on the map, being able to look at terrain and say, okay, like we did the last 2 days, clear cut, permanent creek, feeder creek, go there. And we've been finding turkeys. I mean, I'd say that's been the biggest challenge, is being able to look at a map and then apply that to the knowledge of, or the thought of, that there could be turkeys there, and then having the confidence to go there.
Yeah, being able to narrow it down to certain spots.
Yeah, you got to take this huge map you're looking at and don't get sucked into being like, there's 10,000 acres there, I don't know where to look. And then just try to find those small, just condense it down and find those small little spots, that permanent creek or where that clear cut comes close to it, and then go to that. And then if you don't find anything there, exit off, go to the next one, and then just keep doing that.
How do you move on turkeys in flat, big timber?
How do you move on turkeys in flat, big timber?
Slow and careful.
Very careful.
And low.
We've been having to deal with that a little bit in these bottoms.
Yeah, a little bit.
Seems like there's always some sort of little
There's a creek, there's a depression, there's a wash. But it's just getting to know it is the hard part. Like going
Especially
into
hunting
that
new
spot
places all the
yesterday
time.
morning. Like I was telling you, that hunt me and Jake had a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's the luxury we had a few years ago that we did not have yesterday morning. A couple years ago when we killed that bird, we got to scout that whole bottom out the morning we killed him, because they were roosted down there, and then they moved off with hens, so we could slide in and kind of look at where they were at. And then we found a little spot, a little pocket in the middle of that wide open flat timber where there was some cane and just a little bit thicker vegetation. And then we started plotting our route to get in there. So like there was a wash that led down into the main creek, and then we could slide into this little pocket of cover without exposing ourselves to the wide open timber around us. And we killed that bird right there. But yesterday morning, we did not know where to go. All we knew was that the turkey was gobbling 200 yards from us, and we got as close as we could. And well, you saw how that worked out. He came to 60 yards and wouldn't come no further. So
I feel like walking as you're going, like looking for setups as you're ahead of you. Like, okay, I'm going to go from this tree that has some decent cover around it to this next tree that I could sit on and kill a turkey.
Got to be really strategic with your moves for sure.
Yeah, and you got to remember too, you're dealing with a bird that's half as tall as you are.
Yeah.
So get down on their level, take a knee, and see what they can see. You may only need a foot or two of depression to hide from them, or even potentially call them in an open creek bottom. But if you set up, or open woods anywhere, open flat woods, if you set up and you can see sitting on the ground 300 yards down through there, you might be able to work him in with no decoy.
You're gonna have to be hot.
He's going to have to be hot, and you're going to have to call very strategically when he gets behind trees or brush piles or whatever, so that he's got to continue coming your direction and looking. Sometimes we've been able to work turkeys in that way in open terrain. But a lot of
more
times
times
they
than
hear
not,
that sound.
regardless of where you're at, too. It's not even very unpressured turkeys. They're not going to just come in looking if you don't have decoy out most times.
They get ate by too much stuff.
Mhm.
They're used to, their eyes are so good. They're used to seeing, hearing a hen and then seeing her.
Mhm.
And when they don't see her where she's supposed to be, because they can pinpoint that sound, they just set up shop out there, or they give up on it and leave.
Mhm.
What type of cuts do you recommend in a mouth call? Or maybe what's your favorite?
What type of cuts on a mouth call? I don't know. Go around.
I don't even know what it's called. I know what it looks like.
Yeah, I don't know.
Honestly, I like all three of the ones in our pack,
Mm-hmm.
and there's all three of them. I feel like there's like a low volume call I can blow well, medium, and maybe that's how it was designed, I guess. But and I can get louder on one.
We just wanted to make all three of them so that they're easy to use.
And that's the same answer we gave last week. It's just like try a variety pack, get a 3-pack of calls, and that's the only way to really decide what you like.
Yeah. I really like that Prof reeds. I don't like heavy latex in my mouth calls. I never really have, and that's why those calls are easier to blow.
There's some certain calls that you can recommend that have that, because I don't even know what that is.
Our calls have it.
All three of them do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all made with Prof. And it's a little finicky. Like you don't want to stick those reeds together and keep peeling them apart over time, because that Prof will wear out. So if you take toothpicks and put between your reeds and store them in the refrigerator, it'll.
I noticed I can purr on them better than I've ever been able to. I never really could until the end of last spring even get that noise, and I'm getting
that's just
better.
because those calls are stretched tighter and they got latex or heavier latex that take more air pressure. Probably, I'm just assuming.
No, I mean, there's got to be some sort of reason, because I could never do it, and then all of a sudden I can kind of do it. A couple of those calls that Bruce Hall made me, I'm sure he's probably using something similar to what you're talking about. He gave me a couple of them, and all of a sudden I could purr.
Yeah.
Or at least make, the noise.
Which one do you like?
The Ninja Hammer.
That's a combo cut. And then you've been blowing that Echo,
the Alpha.
The Alpha. That's our THP pack combo.
Yeah, I like
that
one.
Similar to the Ninja Hammer, just different.
We all
That's
ran that Ninja Hammer for a couple of years. Like we've all like
that's my favorite one out of the 3-pack of ours is the Alpha.
Yeah.
It
is very similar. There's another Woodhaven call that I don't know what it's called. I know the cut is similar to the Hammer, and it's got the Hammer like dash, like sideways cut, and then like a ghost cut in it as well, off to the side of it. I don't know what that's called, but I've used that one the last few years and I loved it.
Yeah.
And now I've got the Alpha I really, really like. So
I like all of them, but the Echo.
You're kind of an alpha, so that makes sense.
See these shoulders?
Broad shouldered Texan over there.
Is the Smurf still alive?
The Smurf? Yes, it lives still. My buddy Chef Neil's got it. He owns his own restaurant and bar now, and it's parked out back.
Give him a little shout out. Tell people if they're ever in the area.
If you're ever in the Paris, Missouri area, Paris, America, go check out the Hootin' Chicken.
What's a hootin' chicken sound like?
I couldn't tell you.
Give it a try.
I don't know.
First thing that comes to mind.
I don't know what a Hootin' Chicken sounds like.
Let's hear yours. Let's hear your chicken.
That was like a hootin' monkey.
That sounds like that orangutan.
Somebody told me it's called the Red Wasp is what I was thinking
Red
of.
Wasp.
I don't know.
There you go. Got another one, Greg.
Somebody asked why we don't use TSS, but some of us.
Why we don't use TSS?
Yeah,
Most of us do use TSS. Yeah. I think the majority of us use TSS, except for maybe me and Zinger. And he may be changing pretty soon. What else you got? Are we concluding our rapid fire session here?
I think we're winding down. We're at an hour. The audio's getting a little funky.
Okay.
Let's wind it down so we can get this video posted for
Yeah,
people.
so we're done.
Yeah,
We're
we
gonna
got
post the video.
Next big kill tonight.
Yeah. You want to do one more, Greg, or are we done for the night? All right, we're done. He's got a bunch on there, but he's sifting through. We got to post this video too. We
It's
got
getting a little airish out here as
yeah,
well.
it is. It feels
I'm
like,
underdressed.
Feels like a squall could be blowing in.
Mm-hmm. Frog strangler coming in hot.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're gonna leave, guys. Ted's gonna put his shoes on, and we're gonna head on.
Thank
I am.
God.
Thanks for joining us.